Beneath the unforgiving sun of southern Peru lies a mystery older than history, a canvas of earth etched with precision. Hundreds of massive geoglyphs, hummingbirds, spiders, spirals, stretching for miles across the Nazca Desert, carved by hands that never had the means to see their full creation. Why would an ancient people draw figures only visible from the sky? Was it ritual? A cosmic calendar? A language we've yet to understand? Or perhaps it was never meant for human eyes at all. Perhaps it wasn't just art. It was communication. A transmission carved into the earth, meant not for us, but for something watching from above. Something they believed would return. And maybe something they remembered from before. The Nazca Lines don't just raise questions, they ask them in silence, in shape, in scale. Mainstream scholars offer practical explanations for the Nazca Lines. They speak of agricultural calendars, ceremonial pathways, sacred offerings to the gods of rain and sun. They've tested the soil, carbon-dated pottery fragments, reconstructed surveying methods with ropes and stakes. And on paper, it all makes sense. Until you lift off. Until you rise above the desert floor and see the hummingbird stretching the length of a football field, drawn with such precision, such symmetry, it defies simple tools. You see hands that never saw the full image. Designs meant to be viewed from the air, in an era with no way to fly. And then the question returns. Quiet, persistent. Were they truly alone when they made these? Or were the Nazca not just reaching for the sky, but responding to something already watching? Some call it pseudoscience. Others believe it's the oldest truth never fully told. Among the Nazca Lines, one figure stands apart, the so-called astronaut geoglyph. Etched into the hillside, its form is unmistakable. Large eyes, an arm raised to the sky, as if waving. Surrounding it are lines so precise, so massive, they're only visible from the air. Stranger still, anomalous electromagnetic readings from the soil. Coincidence or communication? From desert shamans to orbiting satellites, the question remains. What if these aren't just ancient symbols, but signatures, coordinates, a breadcrumb trail across time, left for visitors not yet arrived? Now we head into the desert, into the silence, the patterns, the unknown. This is more than archaeology, more than myth. It's not just a journey backward. It may be a step towards something older, and not entirely of this earth. The farther they walked into the plateau, the quieter everything became. No wind, no birds, not even the hum of insects. Just silence, deep, unnatural. The kind that presses against your chest. Only the steady crunch of boots on ancient sacred dust. Then, it happened. The first anomaly. A broken signal. Faint, fragmented. A low-frequency pulse rising from deep beneath the earth. Not noise, not interference. An echo, but not one made by man. An echo that felt answered. Like something had been listening all along. The Nazca Lines didn't move, but they shifted. Not in shape, but in presence, in meaning. They weren't just symbols carved for the gods. They were messages, coordinates in a forgotten language. And now, finally, someone or something had started whispering back. Fear didn't arrive all at once. It crept in, growing quietly in the spaces between the silence. Compasses spun without cause. Drones dropped from the sky mid-flight, and shadows moved across the dust, where nothing and no one should have been. The team began to fracture. Some urged retreat, sensing they'd gone too far. Others couldn't leave, as if something had already taken root inside them. One of them, silent until that moment, finally spoke. This place, it's trying to remember something. And now, it's remembering me. He didn't leave. He walked to the center, to the heart of the spiral etched into the earth. And then, without warning, the beacon lit up. No touch, no signal, just light, as if the place had been waiting for him. Somewhere high above the Andes, a forgotten signal tower blinked to life. Its light pulsed once, then again, in rhythm. Thousands of miles away, in a Tokyo research lab, scientists froze mid-analysis. In Geneva, spectrographs that had shown nothing for decades suddenly aligned. Across continents, instruments responded to something they couldn't name. Not a weapon, not a machine. Something deeper, older, memory. Not of this earth, but of something that came before it. Beneath the desert sands, under layers of time, moonlight, and myth, an eye opened. Not a lens, not a camera, an awareness. It had waited in stillness, It had endured silence, storms, centuries. And now, it was awake. It was watching. Not for us to return to it, but to remember that it never left. The signal was no longer confined to the desert. It moved like breath, subtle, invisible, across sky, soil, and circuit. It didn't need wires. It didn't need permission. It simply spread. One by one, ancient places began to stir. Monoliths resonated. Mountaintops hummed. Spirals began to form. Not carved, not painted, but appearing as if remembered by the land itself. Machines glitched. Watches stopped. Children woke from dreams they couldn't explain, with eyes full of stars. And then the voice began. Not through speech, not through screens, but through them. It spoke in memory, but not a memory we had lived. A memory older than us, running deeper than blood. A frequency that skipped past language, past logic, and went straight to the soul. Not to inform, but to awaken. Across the world, humanity split. Some saw the signal as a threat, the first wave of an invasion. Others felt something awaken inside them. An ancient familiarity, a call long forgotten. Governments scrambled. Firewalls went up. Satellites were redirected. Military forces mobilized, ready to silence whatever was coming. But it was already too late. The transmission wasn't outside us anymore. It was in us, woven into our sleep, embedded in our code, whispering through our cells. Entire populations began to dream the same spiral, over and over. Entire cities shifted, as if nudged by unseen hands. It wasn't panic. It was alignment. Something vast was organizing the chaos. Something ancient. And for the first time, we understood. We were never in control. And we were not the center. We were part of the pattern. Not its author, but its echo. Not everyone resisted. Some remembered. Not through textbooks or teachings, but through whispers in the dark, visions behind closed eyes, and songs sung in a language not spoken for 10,000 years, yet still known by the soul. Spiral cities began to rise. Not built, but grown, aligned with stars, tides, and time. Patterns emerged everywhere. In the oceans, in the forests, in the flight paths of birds and the movement of storms. The earth responded, not in panic, but in resonance. And above us, where silence once reigned, something began to listen back. We had long believed we were alone in the vastness, unique, central, but now we know we were not alone. We were not the first. And perhaps we were never the intended recipients at all. Just the next ones to hear the call. What we once dismissed as ruins are now understood as instructions. Spiral blueprints encoded in stone. Symbols not carved to impress future generations, but to activate something ancient within us. With each uncovered artifact, each reawakened sight, the message grew louder. It was never about belief. It was about memory. Not what we worshipped, but what we forgot. From windswept deserts to frozen glaciers, from crumbled tombs to still-standing temples, the same shape emerged. Over and over, a spiral, a signature. Not coincidence, not mythology, a pattern, older than time, older than language, etched not just into stone, but into our very bones, and into the earth beneath them, waiting, not to be found, but to be remembered. Some remembered through dreams, visions that return night after night, whispers in forgotten tongues. Others remembered through touch, the pulse of ancient stone vibrating beneath their hands. This knowledge wasn't taught. It didn't come from books or lectures. It was awakened. Children who'd never seen a glyph began to draw symbols with uncanny precision. Machines responded not to commands, but to breath. And voices long silenced by time or trauma began to sing again. The truth revealed itself slowly. We were not simply explorers of the ancient. We were descendants of it. The spiral wasn't a path outward. It was a journey inward. And deep inside each of us lived a spark. Not of curiosity, but of memory. An echo waiting patiently to be remembered and reactivated. The final spiral opened, not with thunder, not with fire, but with stillness. A silence so deep it felt sacred, and earth responded. Light curled gently across the land, moving like breath across stone. Voices fell quiet, not in fear, but in knowing. And the machines, one by one, fell silent. Not from failure, but reverence. because the message had been received. It was never a warning, never a threat. It was an invitation to remember who we were, to realign with what we had forgotten, to begin again, not from scratch, but from awareness. The stars watched in still rhythm. The earth breathed deep beneath our feet. And in that hush, one by one, without command or fear, we chose to remember, to return, to rise. It began without warning, not with sirens or signs, but with a whisper across the sky, a rhythm beneath our feet, barely felt, yet undeniably there. The spiral, long forming, long hidden, completed itself, and Earth exhaled. The hum of machines faded. The oceans, once restless, grew calm. And in that rare, sacred silence, we heard her. Not in thunder, not in flame, but in light. In the space between moments. In the breath we so often ignored. Something ancient had been waiting, not to arrive from above, not to rise from below, but to awaken within. It never left us. We left it. And now, as memory and presence meet, we understand. It was never meant to return, only to be remembered. One by one, we stopped asking the old questions. We stopped trying to measure the mystery, to map it, define it, reduce it. Instead, we began remembering. Not with our minds, but with something deeper. With our cells, with our skin, with the stillness between breaths. We found the spiral etched in our blood, in the cadence of our footsteps, in the way we reach for each other, the way we break and heal and love. Each of us a fragment, each of us a key, each of us a spiral returning to itself. The message was never meant to be read like a code, never meant to be decoded by machines. It was meant to be felt, to be remembered through living, because the message was us. Time dissolved. The clock stopped counting. The past and future folded into now. Borders faded, not just on maps, but in minds, in blood, in belief. And all that remained was presence. A stillness beyond silence. Above, the stars began to shift. Not randomly, but in rhythm. Below, the earth pulsed with a soft, radiant glow. And in every heart, a memory awakened. Not of what we had lost, but of who we had always been. This was not contact with something new. It was not the thrill of discovery. It was the first true homecoming. Not arrival, but return. And as breath slowed, and as the pattern completed, the spiral, at last, was still. Not an ending, but a remembering made whole.